Nice to see you. If you're muted, can you unmute it for a second?
Oh yeah, let's unmute for one second.
Unmute it for a second.
We have a tradition.
I don't know if it's a tradition, but just unmute it for a second so we can say hello.
Hello.
Everyone remember?
Hello.
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 Oh, hi, Sean. We are a little bit weird in saying hello. If you haven't seen it before, it looks like this. Okay, so let's say hello. Okay.
Okay, we can all go on mute.
Okay, well, thank you for unmuting. Chuckling does an amazing thing. It kind of clears the mind very quickly, whether we are in a good mood or not in a good mood. So it's a wonderful way to say hello, except it's good to know one another. If you do it to a stranger, you might not see them again. So.
Or you'll be in the straitjacket.
A straitjacket, something like this. So we have usually our intention with these satsangs is twofold. One, and most importantly, is just to be together, which has sometimes amazing results. Just to be together. The mind doesn't like it that much, but that's okay. Being together. And the other one is to answer possible questions that you might have. And if you don't have, then we go what we like to call the shoebox and answer questions from people who wrote in their questions. So, while we are addressing a question, we can still just be. Question or no question, we are being together. So it's just kind of very simple. You smile and sink into the chair. You don't make this complex. Keep a little bit of smile and be aware of your hand and your butt in the chair as you sink into the chair. These kind of things only works if you don't take them seriously. So it's a prerequisite not to take them seriously. So we smile at our butt. And the butt is gratefully appreciative about that, because we don't really smile at our butt very frequently. And be aware of your hand, or whatever simple way, whatever it is your simplest way to effectively angle in your attention towards the body. So that's a constant. It's a very much of a constant in our interaction while we are talking, answering questions, or asking questions. So whether we're laughing or whatever, we keep in some simple way, we keep some of our attention directed towards the body. And it could be feeling your hand, feeling your butt, feeling your head, scratching your nose, whatever. So if there is no question, we usually go to a question from the shoebox, which are questions that came in, and then we go from there. Keep it simple. Okay, go ahead, shoebox.
No question? Let me just check the
Let
other
me check
side.
if nobody has a question.
Okay.
I know why, because the shoebox
It's so
questions are
enticing.
sometimes so good,
Yeah.
because they are selected from a lot of questions, so
Yeah.
they are very good.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. All right. Where is it? Oh. How do I know that the path I am going on is the correct path to awakening?
Okay. Okay, well, any path that brings in time is not the path to awakening. And what does it mean, bring in time? If you're encouraged to practice something for a future event, meditate because you're going to have a calmer mind. Clean up your body because of whatever reason. Wear a particular type of clothing or color because it's better. Anything that brings in a future event, and a future event could be 5 minutes from now. So the awakening is what I call angular, and I had to invent the word because it's very accurate, because if our normal dimension is represented by a horizontal line, the past and the future in time, then awakening is in an angle to it. Every moment is in an angle to it. It accompanies every measurable moment in an angle. Angles are angels, and angels are angles, if you want to put it that way. So it's the correct path is the angular path, and we, as long as there is time or anticipation or some kind of a future event or expectation, that's not the right path. Another way to put it is that our senses in this world of sensory world are connected to our words, our expressions, and our templates. Consistently limit our reality. And that's the way we speak, and that's the way our reality is, and that's the way we live our lives. So you can, basically my eyes, my ears, touching sensation, all those things what we can feel controls the kind of templates that I have in my head. And that's perfectly okay to live in this horizontal reality. And that's the world of sense. And this dimensional sense-related world has a value system. It has to make sense. If it makes sense, then it makes sense, right? And awakening is in an area of nonsense. So if it makes sense, then chances are, if it makes a lot of sense, chances are it's not the direction. So the expression called nonsense has to be rehabilitated somehow, because we say, nonsense, nonsense. As if nonsense were such an insignificant thing. Nonsense is not, let's say it's nothing. There's a lot more nothing in the world than something.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. So the bottom line is sensory world, limiting world, time is not. If it's in an angle to that reality, I call it an accompanying reality. It's like it's always accompanies this in an angle. The world of it's in a world of nonsense. We don't have a sense yet to actually make sense of it. So we have a challenge. This is a very, very simple thing. However, we have a challenge that we need to explain. We need to use the mind for explanations and evaluations precisely for the purpose of bypassing the mind. So we're asking the goat to guard the cabbage. I'm sure everyone has a goat in the backyard, right? So it's not in the sensory world. We use words for explanations, and we keep explaining and dropping the explanation. What we do is we keep explaining and dropping it. So every explanation has to be dropped. So we keep explaining, dropping, explaining, dropping, explaining, dropping, collapsing with the words and the explanations until there's no words. And then we arrive at the world of nonsense. Just be aware of your hand or butt. And when we sort of go through the eye of the needle, quote unquote, I'm using Jesus's metaphor, we can only go through total naked, maybe greased up and small. We can only go through naked. So we must drop and drop and drop the explanations, everyone else's explanations, and my explanations. Any explanations must be dropped. That does not mean that we're not explaining, but we're explaining with the intention that is temporary, it will be dropped. So we cannot look for awakening. We cannot go towards awakening. We cannot we cannot do behavior modification enough to go towards awakening, because awakening happens as a collapse. It's not a road, it's a collapse. We collapse into the body. So every road leads away from awakening. We can only collapse into it. If you're collapsing into it, you're on the right path. If the explanations are encouraging you to collapse into it, it's the right path. If it has to make sense totally to the mind before you go further, it's not. Let me see if I can look for a quote that is not from me. Ramana Maharshi said that the lack of unwanted thoughts shows you that you're on the right path. So no thoughts, chances are you're in the right path, because as we angle into the body very simply and smile, the mind tends to either slow down or stop. We know then we're in the right path, and even this is not a path. But it's okay to call it a path, because what we do with every expression is drop it. That's how we drop it. It's equivalent to saying hello or goodbye. So we can collapse. If it's encouraged to collapse into it, it's on the right path. If it's encouraged for a future event, it's not. Especially when it comes to past lives, and you need 50 more lifetimes to iron out your karma. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. You know, there's no future event. We don't even care what happened 5 minutes ago, never mind what happened in my past life. Entertaining is fine. It's on a horizontal time frame, past, future. It isn't. If it's collapsing, it's correct from the perspective of awakening. There's a lot of good things here, but it's not conducive to awakening. Whatever thought we have, we drop it. We drop into the body a little bit. We also we use very simple techniques. Feel our hand, and also we consider the arm a magic wand, because it's the arm, the fingers, and everything is in the golden ratio proportion, as the whole body is. It's in the golden ratio proportion, and I'm in it, and it's moving. Wow. So we call it the magic wand. When we're in it, and we are able to project angles, we are able to move between our smile and the magic wand. It can be really comfortable sitting in the body. No special technique, it's easy. It's either easy or impossible. My mandate is to make it easy. It's very simple. If you know where we're looking for it, it's easy. If you're looking in the wrong place, it's not there. So from the mind's perspective, from the contrast mind perspective, it is hard. Because the mind values everything that it can understand and control. So if the mind can't understand it or control it, then it's hard. Well, I'm saying it's not hard, it's impossible. When we have these silent moments, whether we have it together or during your listening, the inner silence is very important. You know you're there, quote unquote there. There's no there, but you know you're sufficiently collapsed and surrendered. When the mind slows down or says nothing. Usually, if you have any kind of sound in the room, usually the sounds sound a little bit differently. And it's that simple. Then we are on the right path. We knocked on the door, it opened, and the mind started to slow down. And if the contrast mind is still a little bit active, it's going to say, it's crazy, wasting your time. It can't be that simple. You don't deserve it. How come you should be there now? You meditated 20 years, whatever. And if it comes up, it's okay. Just chuckle it. Woo! And spending these silent times together, it's extremely beneficial. It's beneficial for the so-called awakening process. If we collapse together, it's easier. Just keep a little bit of smile. Smile at your fingers, smile at any part of your body. It's so wonderful. We are in different parts of the world and we're silent together. And it's not the kind of silence that we experience when the mind is silent. It's another place. In the body, awakening type of silence is different. It's permanent. We always want something permanent in our life, and as long as we do it with the mind, it's not going to be permanent, because by its nature it's going to swing. And we want the mind, we like the mind, we want to use it. If it wasn't for the contrast mind, we couldn't build a building or have a bridge or anything. But what we want to do is add to it. Even that's not a very good word, but the accompanying consciousness, this silence, And on the top is resting any kind of thought that we deliberately want to have. Right now we don't want to have any, so it's total silence. It's that simple. It's we can't get to here, we can only surrender to it. And there's all kinds of important information that subsequently we need to drop. One of which is you can only inherit this. Can't get it, you cannot deserve it, you can't earn it. You can only inherit it. You already did inherit it, it's a birthright. But you have to claim it, we have to claim it. We have to claim it simply by consciously being aware of our inheritance. Very important to know that if you inherit stuff, you didn't earn it or deserved it. I've known many people who have trust funds, and they inherited it from their fathers and grandfathers. Most of them don't feel guilty. It's just... So this ability, which is not even an ability, this amazing accompanying love can only be inherited. It has to be claimed by collapsing into the body, angling into the body, angling towards the body. And when we feel it, we feel a kind of a appreciation. Every word, of course, we drop, including that. We feel kind of grateful. Oh my God, really, I inherited this. Yeah. I didn't earn it. I mean, I didn't clean up my chakras yet. That's okay. You still get your inheritance. The more we activate this while we're doing our life, the better it sticks. Sticks is not a good word. It becomes easier and easier to momentarily claim this inheritance. So just a little bit of smile will keep it in place, make it easier for you to claim this inheritance moment to moment. So, do we have another question from somebody? Or can we look at another shoebox? Okay. Oh, Dorina, go ahead, Dorina. Unmute.
Yeah. A subject that most spiritual teachers don't touch, or they touch it very, very little, is all these states in the body and all this outcome that is triggered by the attention on the body. All is fine and beautiful. You put your attention here, you know, but there comes a moment when all the demons, let's say demons, you laugh after using this word,
yeah,
are coming out of you. And sometimes it's, sometimes it becomes unbearable. Why this subject is not touched? Just to not scare the people that are motivated to go on a certain awakening path, or?
Well, yes, could be many reasons to it. My my personal experience is that unless this kind of simplicity is really gotten by the person, and they just say that, well, okay, yeah, it's a kingdom, it's within, we know that, we heard it already, okay, what's next? And they say, oh yeah, you have to feel your hand, that's okay, but what's next? What keeps a teaching going in the timeline is some sort of a future event. So come to the next event and we're going to clean up more. Come to the next event, we're going to do more. So subconsciously, teachings tend to have future events in which the mind is used, even though there is silent moments of meditation or looking inside. And so my opinion is that that this distinction of it's not this reality, it's an angular reality, must be made. If not, the mind has this tremendous magnetism. It will take us to some kind of a future event. It will take us on the path that's very exciting, very wonderful, very very intense, and talk about interesting subjects, how the masters in the top of the Himalaya dematerialize themselves, and whatever, right? And there's usually groups of people. It makes it very interesting. It's this distinction is usually not made crystal clear. It should be made crystal clear. Now, as far as stuff coming up, right? When you're angling into the body, stuff will come up. And then comes the question, okay, stuff comes up, let's say fear. So how can I angle into the body when it has fear, right? By angling into the body, we're activating our inheritance. We're activating the part of the body that functions just fine. Even if I have a fear that came up, my heart is hearting, my lung is lunging, circulation is still there, and I have some kind of a fear. So it's a very minor thing in comparison to the power of your inheritance. Now, I don't underestimate those fears that come up. Now, the fears that come up do not have to be cleaned up prior to awakening. Hope I said this correctly. Most beliefs are that the fears that come up has to be faced and eliminated in some way. Clean up your emotions, etc. But the proper use of stuff coming up is what we call a catalyst. The fears that come up are catalyst. Catalyst for what? It's a catalyst. When the fear comes up and we angle in, it encourages angling in. The fear that comes up wants to be touched, wants to be engaged, wants to be loved. If I can call a fear Charlie or any kind of name, right? The fear does not want to be, the fear can act as a catalyst. If we tend to eliminate them, we eliminated the catalyst that would cause us to go deeper into our awakening. So the proper use of fears that come up is essential. So there's a fear in my body, I angle in, and I can feel this peace as well as I can feel the fear. So now, what do I do with the fear? I'm grateful that the fear is there, because now it makes me feel my inheritance more. And what we do with it in the integration process of awakening is we deliberately feel the fear, I usually show like a hugging thing. You hug it, love it with your essence. You treat it like a welcome guest that finally came out. And we see if that fear has a voice. So I have activated my body, and yet it got fear. I don't want to eliminate the fear. I want to cuddle it, love it. And maybe it's got a voice. So I start opening my mouth, because I don't know what kind of a voice it's gonna have. So I've activated my body, I'm focusing on the fear. I open my mouth and I say, ooh, I allow any sound that come up. Doesn't necessarily sound very attractive. I know when you do a proper chant, it sounds much better. But we deal with, it's very important to deal with the fears that come up, is the stuff that come up from the perspective of an awakened body. Not from the perspective of, I need to clean this up before I can get to awakening. But that never ends, ever. So first, we can only be in the now, using that terminology. Not tomorrow morning, it's now, it's now. So first I activate, and whatever is there, whatever comes up is secondary. I'm not brushing the fear under the carpet. On the contrary, I use it as my catalyst towards my deepening my awakening. And I become a catalyst for it also. So it's a co-catalyst relationship. It's very weird because in a relationship, like you got a relationship with your inheritance. In a relationship, you usually get to know the person first. If I want to date someone, I want to get to know someone and then unify with them, have sex in this dimension. At least that's how we think it's normally goes, right? Awakening works the opposite way. Gabor is laughing.
In the world of seals, it's the opposite.
Yeah. Awakening is wonderful because first we unify with it and then we get to know it. So it's like saying, excuse me, I don't work the normal way. First I unify with you and then I get to know you. First we activate, because we want to use the power of God, quote unquote, the universal power, to deal with this, whatever this is, pain or issue. So we already want to use the higher powers. We already want to use a superior platform. First we unify with it. Stuff comes up, and we love it into perhaps oblivion. And it loves us into deepening of presence. So mostly these kind of things are not made this clear. It has to be made this clear. Anywhere where there's a future event, or I have to do something before something else, it's the mind loves it when it says, okay, I have to clean up first, I have to deal with my emotions, I have to first take care of my finances. I'm gonna wait until the children goes away from the house. I'm gonna deal with it when my health is better. Never stops. Ever. So if someone encounters such a system, it's fine. It just does not lead into awakenings. So did I answer your question, Dorina? Thank you. Let's not forget about the angling in. While I'm talking, or air comes out of my mouth, you're always angling in gently, like it's no big deal. Okay, I inherited the kingdom of heaven. What the hell? It's okay. Of course, I do. Yeah, but you didn't deserve it. It's okay. I don't care. I'm just a kind of a funny person. I don't care. I'm just laughing. I'm just chuckling at everything. So we're staying with the simplicity, no matter what the mind is trying to get to. It's just nice and comfortable. It's kind of soft. It's like this big womb of God surrounds us. It's steady. It doesn't shift very much. It's not very intense, especially first. A calm mind in the swing is much more intense. So if you compare a calm mind's intensity to the intensity of the feeling of awakening, the calm mind seemed more intense. And the mind would always choose the more intense event. Because of course more is better.